What's going on, guys? In the last video I tinted and glassed the deck of the board. Where I left off was sanding the cut lap flush to the board. In this video I hot coat the board, which is applying a coat of epoxy resin to the freshly glassed board. Let's get into it. Just gonna wipe down the edge real quick with some alcohol to make sure that there's no dust residue. I start off by applying the masking tape around the midpoint of the board. This will get us a nice clean seam for the epoxy to flow over. Try to do this with gloved hands. Do as I say and not as I'm doing here, but you get the idea. Back here, while not required, I like applying just a little piece of tape right at the edge here, because when I hot coat, it'll go down, and instead of, due to capillary action or just the sheer nature of how epoxy flows, it'll go underneath and it just creates more effort to sand. This will allow the epoxy to build up on this tape line here, right here. So the epoxy will pool right here, and it gives me a lot of extra epoxy to get a nice sharp line at the hard rail back at the tail. Also, if you have the tape sucking under, just take a tape ball, pull out on it, and just put it in behind. Also, I make sure to keep my vacuum brush clean before vacuuming the board. Alright, for the hot coat, I'm gonna start with 250 grams of resin. Alright, I'm gonna stick my gloves on. And I'm going to add the hardener. So I'm going to add, because I'm doing 250, I multiply that by 0.446 for my ratio, and I get 111 approximately grams. I'm going to add that. I'm going to stir it around. Now this time it's super important that when I mix the resin that I try not to whip any air into it, because that's what causes cloudiness and like a white kind of look in your hot coat. Where it really stands out is when a board that is colored really dark, or like the 3D printed surfboard I did, it kind of looks a little bit cloudy because I did it on a really bright red, a deep colored red. But in this case, this board is going to be pretty light, so it's not a big deal. But as you can see here, there's no bubbles in this. Okay, now I'm going to add the 111 grams of hardener. Of course, I should have added the additive F first. So this stuff is really important to help prevent fish eyes. Additive F. I just add like a couple capfuls. I honestly don't measure. Alright, I'm going to stick my respirator on and get hot coating. Try not to whip air into this. So I scrape the sides. I go top to bottom, but try not to whip too much air in it. Inevitably, you always whip a little bit in. Hot coating is pretty simple. The first go around, I use my brush and push the resin around the board. Spread it all around the board. Use it kind of like a plow. can tell I'm going to run a little short, so I'm just going to mix up a little more, giving me an extra 150 grams of mixed epoxy. Once the resin is spread out, I use cross strokes to even out the resin. Also, keeping an eye out to make sure the rail is covered as well. After the cross strokes, I run my brush lengthwise up and down the board using overlapping passes. Alright, done. Don't be tempted to screw with it. Can't really even notice any of the air bubbles in it too. So I think I'm going to leave it. Well, check back in like 3 hours to pull the tape. Okay, if you look right here, now it's been about 3.5, 4 hours. And I pull on the epoxy and see how it stretches slightly? This is just at about the point where I can pull the tape. It might be just a tad early, but I'm going to do it now. Just because. But ideally, I would wait just a little bit longer because it has a tendency that you could remove a little bit from the fiberglass. But I think I'll be okay. I'm going to try it. I have to say, pulling it right now is just so much easier. If you let this set, oh, it's just a nightmare sometimes to get it pulled off, especially if you're using not very good quality tape. So try to catch it if you can early. Alright, the hot coat on the deck came out awesome. Like super smooth, very little dust. Love it. I'm going to tape the rail right below where the seam is from the previous hot coat. I am also going to just touch up real quick at the tail and just sand that down just a little bit where a little bit of the epoxy just kind of flowed over past the tape, just so we can get that really nice, sharp, hard rail when we go to sand. also see here, back here at the deck, you can see back here where the tail reinforcement for the fin box is. I added an extra layer of 6-ounce glass when I did the lamination. You notice that it's a different color than the part that only has one layer. And I think the reason why is because I think I used a different type of glass. I had another type of 6-ounce glass that was older, and I used it because it was just a extra piece. And I used it back here, and unfortunately I think it changed the color. When you're using your glass, use it all from the same batch, or else you might end up with something like this. At least that's what I think happened. Minor thing, but just something for you to know. Because on the rails here, I didn't have the same issue. With the rails wrapping over, there isn't the extra color, and this has 2 layers of glass. So back here at the tail, I'm just going to create a tape dam here. I'm going to fold the tape back a little bit. So when I pour the epoxy in here, it'll pool and it'll build up along the edge here, and then we'll be able to get a really nice sharp edge. Just like all my other videos. Okay guys, I'm going to end the video here. The hot coat came out awesome, and in the next video I sand the surfboard and prep it for the gloss coat. Thanks so much for watching, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.